Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecini. We're presented by The Athletic. Today on the show, Bryce Simon is in the building. We have a couple of things that we need to talk about. Bryce is here because, someone fell through. And, we get double dip Bryce this week. It's great. We love to see it. He's wearing his Chief shirt.
I didn't mean to show that off. I'm sorry. I just naturally do it, and I feel like people probably think I'm like trying to pop the jersey or whatever. That's not that's not my intention. My bad.
There are worse things. So we're going to talk today. We're going to talk about James Harden trade talks and like Terance Mann apparently being the breaking point. There was a really good report from Sam Amick at The Athletic. Fantastic website. Go subscribe there. And explaining like the trade talks and what's going on there. And I want to talk a little bit about where that sits. We're also going to talk about the fact that the Rockets and Thunder came to a trade agreement to finally move Kevin Porter and acquire Victor Oladipo and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. Then we're going to take reader questions. And then at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Rockets defense in the preseason. I've pulled a bunch of clips, bunch of tape, which will make this conversation really fun, in my opinion. I hope that you guys will enjoy it as well. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
Not much. I just want to report the movie you told me to watch the other night was actually quite good. I enjoyed it. Totally killer. Me and my wife both enjoyed the movie. It was kind of right up my speed. The gore was like borderline. Okay, like, do we really need to do this for this type of movie? But the storyline was easy to follow. I enjoyed it. Overall, good movie because honestly, Sam, lots of times I'll just stop watching. I'll start playing on my phone. I'll start doing something else. And so it also made my wife happier that I watched the whole movie because our quality time was actually quality time. So good call.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. That's the goal here. Yesterday, I spent some time potentially purchasing many Blu-rays because Criterion had a sale. Criterion is this high-end let's go with curator service of movies, and they sell Blu-rays, and bought a good 15 16 movies. It was great. I'm excited. We love the 50% off flash sales from Criterion. Criterion sponsor the show. Come on in, let's do it. So okay, we're going to start here with let's start with the Rockets and Thunder deal first because we can knock that out. So this is just kind of a simple trade. The Houston Rockets traded Kevin Porter and 2 future second-round picks for Victor Oladipo and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. The Thunder are going to get a 2027 second from Minnesota and a 2028 second from Milwaukee. Look, there's obviously like a real moral aspect of these two teams consummating deal for Kevin Porter, given that Kevin Porter is in the middle of legal proceedings in New York, associated with an alleged assault of his girlfriend. And that is a real factor here. And anybody that, feels some type of way about this, totally understand that. I think there's a real, Houston maybe should have just cut him. Right. Where I ended up kind of coming down on this was on the moral side of it was moving him gets him out of the NBA sooner because Oklahoma City is going to cut him immediately. B, look, you can blame the Rockets for indulging Kevin Porter for a couple of years now and, building things around him to some respect. And I think that's like a completely reasonable opinion. If they're going to cut him anyway, I don't really have an issue, I guess, with them moving him either, just in order for him to get cut. The end result here is that as long as he was cut before opening night, no more of his money was going to be guaranteed. And as long as that happened in one way or another, I'm good with it, I guess. And this is the way it happened. And, I get that it's a little bit unsavory for some people, and I think that's a completely valid and, okay opinion to hold. The end result for me is just like, as long as he was gone before opening night and no more of his money got guaranteed, that seemed like the best outcome for everybody involved.
Yeah, I think when you explain it that way, Sam, it makes sense, right? Because we talked about this a few weeks ago, and part of my thing was like I just hated the idea of like somebody of assets exchanging hands involving Kevin Porter Jr. and all of that. But if it gets him out of the league now, which again, based off what he's allegedly done, he should be out of the league, and I don't feel like we should see him back in the league. And it doesn't he doesn't get paid any more money because this happens now when it happens, then like fine. I still don't love it, but it is what it is. And so I'm cool if this is the way it had to go down.
With Oklahoma City, they will get a couple of second round picks way out into the future. With the Rockets, what the Rockets do here, more than anything, in my view, is they get to basically keep the placeholder money for a potential deal later in the season. They have Victor Oladipo now. Victor Oladipo, look, I mean, maybe he's going to be hurt for a while this season. Obviously, he's not going to play until I think that like he has that, what is it? It's patella injury, and it's going to take a minute for him. But they have his $9 million salary. They can use that as an expiring deal and salary matching purposes in a potential move down the road this season. I think that more than anything is what this deal is about, is extending that asset, kicking that like salary bucket down the road a little bit and trying to give them a chance to consummate a deal later on. Uh, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, I think, is an interesting flyer for what it's worth.
Agreed.
I think
Yeah.
I'm a little bit higher on Robinson Earl than what some Oklahoma City fans are for sure. I totally get why Oklahoma City fans, are skeptical he will ever be a real rotation player. And frankly, I am too. Like, I think he is deserving of a roster spot in the NBA right now, but I wouldn't say that he's a guaranteed rotation player anywhere by any stretch of the imagination. So what Oklahoma City or what Houston's going to have to decide now is if they want to keep him. To me, like I probably would personally. I would, the vibes from Boban are always immaculate, and he's probably a great guy to have around for a team that certainly needs veteran leadership. But they also went out and got Fred VanVleet and Jock Lawndale and
Dylan
Dylan
Brooks
Brooks,
doesn't add to
obviously.
that.
I think he does for what it's
No,
worth.
no, I
Like
know, I know.
I've always been a Dylan Brooks guy in terms of like culture on the team. I think that people around the organization generally like him. So it's a deal where I think I would probably cut Boban and keep Jeremiah Robinson Earl, or what I would consider cutting Aaron Holiday as well to keep Jeremiah Robinson Earl. But if they do decide that he's the guy that they're going to move on from, I think there is also a case for a number of teams to just offer Houston a second round pick and give him a shot. Some like Boston, I think, should do this. Like if Houston decides, Robinson Earl is the odd man out, Boston should be calling Houston now and just going like, hey, like we will give you a second for Robinson Earl. We could use one more body in the front court. It might fit for us.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that was my biggest takeaway from this beyond that. Like just looking at it in a basketball sense. I think Houston also created a 4.3 or $4.7 million trade exception in this. I believe I saw that in a tweet from Bobby Marks. But JRE was a guy, as somebody that covers the Pistons, that I was really interested in because the Thunder, I believe, had 18 contracts on the books. And I was just watching, they got to cut 3 guys. Pistons have an open roster spot. Troy Weaver used to be in Oklahoma City. Like, this just makes too much sense that this is why Troy Weaver is keeping an open roster spot. And JRE fit right into what the Pistons need in terms as a 4-man. I mean, definitely off the bench. We talked about this, maybe even in the starting lineup. I don't know that he would come in and do that. They're going to give other guys chances.
No way.
Yeah. I know, but he fits a spot on this team, on the Pistons team, that would really make sense. So it would be interesting. I thought that was for Houston to get someone like him. I don't know where the minutes come for him in Houston, but he's always been intriguing to me all the way back to the draft process.
Well, and look, here's the deal with JRE. Like, he is undersized to play the 5. And he's not like a super perimeter player in terms of being able to play the 4, but he's really smart. I do think he passes well. I think he's an unselfish player. He makes the right decisions. The shooting up until the ankle injury last year was quite good. In the first 27 games of their season, he knocked down, I think, 36% of his threes on 3 or 4 per game. So I think that there is a player there in some respect. It's just, he's not a great finisher and he's not really a rim protector. It's just that he's a smart positional player who's strong and is willing to play physically and will rebound. And it, those guys have value. They're just probably more borderline rotation guys as opposed and like frankly depth guys as opposed to like real difference makers in the NBA.
Yeah, I think I believed in the shooting a little bit more, which, at Villanova, he was 30% from three and 77% from the free throw line. I
Mhm.
think he's been like 34% from three on three attempts in his NBA career. So, maybe there's some continued growth with that. And if it really pops, then, you really have something in terms of a guy that fills out your roster, maybe is actually a backup big, your fourth big. But like if he's your fifth big, which was probably what he is in Boston, as you brought up earlier, I think you can do a lot worse than Jeremiah Robinson Earl as your fifth big or sixth big. Like he definitely belongs on an NBA roster, and he's only 2 years into his NBA career. There's obviously still room that he could grow.
Yeah. And the other thing is if somebody does want him, I would trade for him
Sure.
because he's on 1.9 million this year, club option for 1.9 million next year, and that deal is extendable then. Uh if if he gets released and somebody just signs him, it's, you're restarting the clock kind of
Yep.
thing. So this does have value, in my opinion, at least, as a potential, look, it's not a lot of value. It's a, protected second round pick probably if he's getting moved for something. But I would do that if I was a team, if Houston decides they don't want to keep him.
That's interesting. I didn't think about the contract aspect of it in terms of a little more team control over him as opposed to like, let's say the Pistons brought him in. If he was waived, he plays really good for a year and then you don't have any control over him and he's hitting the
Right.
market again. And you may have just, showed him off for an entire season for somebody else to pick him up, sign him and reap the benefits of that. So yeah, it does make more sense to trade for him in that sense.
Right. I think that is true. Okay. Let's go to the James Harden and Clippers saga that seemingly will never end. Uh, the Clippers and 76ers, as we talked about on, I think the last episode you and I did, maybe 2 episodes ago, they continue to talk very clearly. There is interest from multiple parties here to try and get this done. And according to Sam Amick, they had their last round of trade talks on Monday. That's not very many days ago. It's literally probably 48 hours ago. And the topic that continues to come up for them, according to Sam, is the Terance Mann piece of it. So the Sixers have told the Clippers, according to Sam, they would accept an offer of a Clippers unprotected first round pick, a first round pick swap, players to match the salaries, and Terance Mann, 2 people involved in the negotiations. Yeah, according to 2 people involved in negotiations, it looks like. Lawrence Frank has reiterated again that the team stance is that Terance Mann won't be a part of their offer. And according to Sam, Morey, those people say, expressed his disbelief and accused the Clippers of being unserious about getting a deal done. He even quipped that they should just trade Clippers star Paul George for Harden if they were so determined to keep all of their lesser assets. Just like, oh, Daryl, that's funny to me. Like, I don't know. People might think that that's like overly serious, but that's just funny. Yeah, and look, like Shams has been reporting that Harden has not been with the Sixers since Sunday, and he's not even really in Philly, and missed the team shoot around and Monday preseason win in Brooklyn, missed practice Wednesday. Like this looks like a situation that is not going to continue to go well for the 76ers. Here's what I'll ask you as we go through all of that reporting. Is Terance Mann worth stopping a James Harden deal if you are the Clippers and you really want James Harden?
So that's what I've been trying to navigate with this thing is why are the Clippers so adamant to not involve Terrence Mann Is it depth purposes? Is it future purposes? I just can't figure it out. And I know people are kind of all over the place on Terance Mann. Like maybe the raw numbers don't just pop off the page as a player who you don't trade for James Harden because you have to move him. My inclination is my gut would tell me you go ahead and add Terance Mann if you want James Harden that bad. Like you have
Yeah.
Paul George, you have Kawhi Leonard. My gut just says you end up adding him to it and make the deal happen and you move forward with those three and the rest of your roster. So I'm not trying to say that Terance Mann isn't a good player or anything like that. I just feel like my gut says you go ahead and add him and make the deal. Maybe the Clippers are just playing hardball, right? Maybe they just think that Morey will cave, but I don't feel like that's going to happen, Sam. I feel like this is going to be a stalemate for a while if both of them like will Philly just go the season not play him without him and not make the trade?
Look, I'm going to be really interested come opening night to see if James Harden is on the court, because the best thing I think for everybody involved is for James Harden to play and they continue to have like a good faith arrangement to move him. But will James Harden feel that if he starts playing, Daryl Morey will just decide, oh yeah, we're just going to keep him. Like he's playing now, like we're good, right? I don't know the answer to that. I will be interested to find out. Now, to the question of Terance Mann, on its face, I do think it looks kind of silly that the Clippers wouldn't move Terance Mann for James Harden. And I say this as somebody, I have loved Terance Mann's game. It's Terance Mann's, I think it's his birthday today. Shout out Terance Mann. Happy birthday. He just turned 27. But like, I think I had Terance Mann higher than everybody else pre-draft. Terance Mann is a guy that I've long said I think is an NBA player. I've loved his continued breakout throughout the course of his career. And he's also like a solid, sixth, seventh man who's 27 years old. And I love his versatility. I love the dribble pass shoot ability, even though he is still like a semi-reluctant shooter as well, despite what that game 7, if I remember correctly, it was against the Utah Jazz would indicate, where he drilled 7 threes in a game against Rudy Gobert. I've loved Terance Mann as a player. I think he's the kind of guy you win with specifically. Like these are the guys that I always talk about. Like I want these guys that you win with. It's a little hard on its face for me to believe that if you want James Harden, who is, he was still like all-star caliber last year. He averaged 21 points and 11 assists last year. He was really good up until his Achilles injury. It's hard for me to believe that he would be the stopping point, but on some token, like for Philly, I think it's as much as anything like an asset play, right? Like Terance Mann is a valuable asset league wide that I think you could probably get a first round pick for if you moved him. Like say that they decide that we need to, in a 3-team deal later in the summer, we need to do, or later in the season, we need to get another first round pick to go get a second star to put next to Joel Embiid. I bet they could probably move Terance Mann for another first round pick and get a star. It'd probably be a later first round pick, but you could then get a second, you could get, you could offer basically 3 or 4 first round picks and then salary matching or whatever to make a deal like this work. So I get it on some level for the Sixers that they would be sticklers on Mann. For the Clippers, to do a deal like this, you probably have to move just to make the money work, and dependent on if the Sixers are insistent that they include PJ Tucker, which I would be personally, again, especially if I'm adding Mann. And my goal is like to maintain flexibility into the summer in terms of money, right? Because Mann has a deal for next season at 11.4 million, a great contract for him, by the way. It would have to be probably Harden and Tucker for Marcus Morris, Nicola Batum, I think Covington and Terance Mann, and that does take away a lot of your depth if you're trying to win right now.
So that's what I was going to ask Sam. Miles Johnson brings this up. He says, my only guess is they think Mann would be the ideal fifth starter next to all those other guys. Do you think the Clippers holding on to Mann is obviously the core is those guys, right? But is it because they think Mann kind of helps complete the roster in a way? Again, I know he's not the core piece, but they will be so depleted with who they send out that they need him to actually go compete in the West, that they need some of that depth. Or is it the future of, hey, we have this younger-ish player? I actually didn't realize Terance Mann was already that old, but not that 27 is old. But or is it like this future asset because all of these other guys are in their mid-30s? Which would you think it is for the Clippers?
I think it's that they actually think they need Mann this year.
Got you.
Yeah. To like help them win games. Because let's say that you do this deal, right? You're then looking at Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Norman Powell, Ivica Zubac, Russ, Mason Plumlee, and then it's like guys. Mostly you know the younger guys like all KJ Martin, Kobe Brown, Amir Coffey, Bones,
Kenyon Martin Jr.
Yep, BJ Boston. So I actually would kind of get it if they think that they like need Terance this year. I don't think it's we need to keep this younger guy. I think it's they think they need Terance to like win games right now. So for the Clippers, the question then becomes like, what is your opportunity cost? Like if you do this deal with your expiring deals, what other deals are you leaving on the table? Like, is there a chance that, do you think that there is a marginal difference between DeMar DeRozan and James Harden at this point or something like that? Like I'm just like throwing out names, right? Do you think that there is like a marginal difference if the Bulls blow it up between, would you rather try and take a flyer or take a shot at Zach LaVine versus James Harden in this? Like that's the opportunity cost aspect of it for the Clippers as much as anything. It has to work for them to want to do this deal. And I would bet that what they're thinking is that the way it works for them is to continue to be an exceptionally high level contender. And that probably involves them needing like a body like Terance Mann, who can eat up minutes, who can dribble, pass, and shoot, and who can be like a winning basketball player.
No, that makes sense. So let me ask you this too, Sam. Let's say Mann's off the deal. Who says no, or do both say no if you add in, let's say you just go 28 and 30, both first round picks? Clippers don't do that at all? No chance?
28 and 30.
No pick swap. No pick swap in 29 now. We'll do all the matching salaries and we'll do 28 and 30. Because that's essentially kind of what we said is if the Sixers trade for Mann, then maybe you can flip him for a first, which ends up netting you 2 firsts. Are the Clippers unwilling to give up both firsts? And would Morey say, hey, those are the 2 assets I'll take. I'll take those 2 first-round picks if you're not going to give me Terance Mann?
I would venture that the Clippers probably would not want to do that, if only because it limits their flexibility in a significant way moving forward.
That was my inclination as well. Do you think Morey would take that? Do you think Morey looks at Mann as a player who comes in and helps this team compete this year? We had this long conversation about them competing this year and Joel and all that stuff. Or would he rather say like, hey, no, give me 2 first-round picks and I'll be happy?
I think Morey would probably rather have the 2 firsts because Sam Amick later in this column says that Philadelphia is known to already have trades lined up in which it would receive a first-round pick in exchange for Terance Mann.
So that's interesting to me that they wouldn't, but they want the flexibility. We talked about that, and Terance doesn't have that flexibility going into the offseason. So that's interesting. Yeah. You bring in Terance Mann, and maybe you can win some more games this year with that roster. So,
yeah, like if you're Boston, I mean, and I say Boston I keep bringing up Boston because Boston needs depth. Like if you're Boston, you absolutely try and get Terance Mann. I actually don't know if they really have like a functional way to do it now that they've given Pritchard this extension. I'm trying to now think of like a team that could do a Terance Mann deal. I'd really have to stop the podcast here momentarily to like run through some teams, but yeah, I bet they would do. I bet Philly would do that if they could get something along those lines.
Okay, real quick. James Harden to LA, and they keep Terance Mann. Who are they not better than in the West still? So you have Harden, PG-13, Kawhi, Russ off the bench. You still have Terance Mann.
Yeah.
Who's still better in the West?
By the way, the team, a team that would make a lot of sense for Terance Mann is Sacramento. Now that I think about it, but who makes who I think I would take the Nuggets still over them, but like so much of this is assuming health in a
Yeah.
way that this team has just not been healthy over the course of their contention window. So the answer is difficult, Bryce. I don't like, I think that if they're healthy, they can absolutely win the NBA title, but James Harden, seemingly picks up nicks and everything from, playing as physically as he does throughout the course of his seasons. Kawhi Leonard has not displayed the ability to stay healthy moving recently. Paul George has struggled a little bit with health recently as well. So it's like you're trying to bet on like multiple pieces of a parlay kind of thing hitting and trying to win. I think I was on the phone with Jason Timpf maybe, and we like made that analogy where we were like, not necessarily about the Clippers, it's about something else, but like, you're betting on like four different things to happen in a parlay when you're betting on like football games, and you have to hit all four. And there's a reason that those things hit at the level they do. At a 14 parlay hitting at like 10%, right? So yeah.
The Clippers fully healthy without Harden, like we're not even thinking top four. I mean, it's significantly different. Like
I
even
think so.
do you think I guess my question is like Kawhi and PG-13 fully healthy, a couple years ago that was enough. Those two guys together.
Yeah.
Do you think it's even close to enough fully healthy Kawhi, PG-13, the rest of this roster without James Harden? Like is that enough to really compete for an NBA championship in this Western Conference landscape?
I think yes,
Okay.
but I also think that what we saw last year from Kawhi was like when he was healthy, he was a top 5 player in the world. So you have a top 5 guy in the world. You have Paul George, who's probably a top 15 guy in the world. I liked what Russ brought them last
Yeah,
year from
sure.
like an energy and aggression perspective. I think that he certainly came in there with the right mentality and like wanted to be the third or fourth option. So yeah, like, but they're in, to me, like that team is in a group with, like, I would put Denver ahead of them for sure.
Yes.
I would put the Lakers ahead of them for sure.
Yes. Phoenix.
Uh, Phoenix, I would probably put ahead of them. Yep. The Warriors, I'd probably put ahead of them if we're assuming health for the Clippers. We have to assume health for everybody.
Yep.
So it's, you're talking about like four teams there, right? And there are all these other teams too that are quite good that I think in a 7-game series could give the Clippers problems. So it's not easy, I think, for
No.
the Clippers.
Yep.
So I think that what a Harden deal does is it gives them more margin for error,
Agreed.
which is ultimately kind of what I think they need as much as anything else, is just more margin for error.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're trying to get, right? You're trying to give yourself the best chance possible, and adding Harden does that. And if you can keep Terance Mann, then it does it even more, right? And so you have to try to win while you have the window with these guys, even if it's a little bit of a risk. So it's just that West is so good. It's sometimes I look at this from the Clippers side, and I'm just like, where does this actually put them? But at the end of the day, it does make it a better chance. And if it's going to give you a better chance to win a championship and be in contention, then it's probably something you need to do.
Okay. Let's take a quick commercial break and then we will be back and we will talk mailbag questions. And if you have questions and you're watching here on YouTube, please bring them on in. We have a bunch to start with that we'll get to, and we'll get to some YouTube questions and everything like that. So send them off in the comments. Do that. Okay, we're back. We're going to try and share some screen here while we're
This
doing
is
these
nice.
questions.
I like it.
Shout out Francis OKC, who asks the first question. Rank the Thunder Big Four, but in 5 years' time, assuming full health and all still with Oklahoma City, Shea, Chet, Jalen Williams, and Josh Giddey. And he puts in parentheses, knowing my love for Alexei Pokushevsky, open to Poku, replacing one if preferred. I'll take this one to start. I would rank them, if we're assuming full health.
I know what you're debating.
Man,
I can't wait.
it's
I know my answer if you want me to go.
Yeah, you go.
Shea, J-Dub, Chet, Giddey.
I go back and forth. It's definitely Shea at one, and apologies to Josh Giddey, who I love, and again, I've said multiple times on the show, I think he's a future All-Star. I would put Josh Giddey at 4.
Yeah,
And it
that
really
was
comes.
rude of me. I'm sorry. That made it sound like I didn't even consider Giddey a good player. I'm sorry. I
No.
think he's really good, but the only distinction here was between Chet and J-Dub for me. And maybe I think Chet's been incredible. We've talked about J-Dub. So yeah, Josh Giddey is really good. It's more of how much I believe in these other three as well being studs. So that sounded bad with Giddey.
No, it's absolutely right. But I think that the more I think about it, if we're going full health, I do think I would go Chet, because I think that Chet's defensive ability mixed with his offensive, marginal advantages that he's able to create on defenses is just a real differentiator for him, compared to other centers outside of Vic. Like, being as high level defensively as Chet is, with his anticipation, his rim protection, his ability to play multiple defensive coverages, mixed with the ability to shoot from the perimeter, to pass, to drive, which in the preseason has actually been the thing I've been most impressed with him. So you mix all of those things together. As much as I love J-Dub, and we've talked about Jalen Williams extensively on this show, I would tell every Oklahoma City fan, go back, even just 2 weeks ago, I think we talked about him as maybe 10 days ago, is one of the breakout players in the NBA this season. I do think I would go Chet if we're talking full health in 5 years.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm not dying on the J-Dub hill. I'm kind of living in the moment with J-Dub and us just doing that podcast and just watching him and being so impressed by him. And I think ultimate ceiling, I don't think there's any question that it's probably Chet in that spot, but that's just where I wanted to go. I'll tell you this about Chet. What impresses me all the time is the way he's able to hold up at his body type. We've talked about this off air before with James Wiseman, where he tries to play with verticality and he gets hit and he kind of doubles over and then it ends up being a foul. Chet is how much ever less weight and whatever. He just has this practical, functional strength is the only way I can explain it. And I know that's crazy to say for a guy that looks as skinny as Chet, but he gets stuff done. And when he plays with verticality, you don't double him over whenever he takes contact. And it's so impressive along with his length and his timing. So again, I don't want this to sound bad towards Giddey. I don't even want it to sound bad towards. Here's what's crazy is we love J-Dub up so much, talk about multi-time All-Star, and you put Chet above him. I was considering that. Just tells you how good a hands Oklahoma City is in, and we're not even talking about SGA, who we both had at number 1. That's just, it's crazy the talent they have there.
Yeah, Shea is going to be a top 10 player in the league this year. Shea is unbelievable. Taking off of that question from Cuckoo DMV in the comments here, what are Oklahoma City going to do with their 15 first and 22 second rounders? At some point, I'm going to have Andrew Schlecht on to talk about this a little bit more, maybe even next week. He said, shouldn't they use all those picks to get their second best player?
Don't they already have that?
My opinion is they have their guys. I think that Chet and J-Dub are both future All-Stars, as soon as probably in 2 years. So to me, I think that it's more that they have a lot of different options at their disposal more than anything. They can go out and use these picks in a trade. Like they can trade 8 first round picks for whatever star that they want to trade it for, right? And use Josh Giddey as a, chip, use Usman Jang, Kaysen Wallace. Like, by the way, Kaysen Wallace looks amazing in the preseason too. Like he's gonna play up until that injury he had. So like they can do that and that works. Or they have their stars already and they can max all of those guys if they decide they want to max them, kind of like how, Denver did. Denver, built around Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and then, filtered in around those guys, right? You can max those guys and then use all of these picks that you have built up, these 15 first rounders, to then go out and trade for veterans that make sense, go out and, very clearly develop at a really high, or evaluate and select players at a really high level, and just have those guys as your cheap, second, third, fourth year players who can be rotation players in the playoffs. I think the biggest thing that they have now is optionality. The answer to this question is, what is Oklahoma City going to do with their 15 first and 22nd seconds? The answer is that I don't know. I don't think they need an answer for it yet, though, is the thing.
Well, what they're going to do, and you just alluded to it, is instead of signing guys to minimum contracts who you hope can be role players, they're just going to trade a first round pick for the best role player that they can think of. And it won't matter because they have so many, or they can keep pushing them down the road, whatever it is. Like they've just set themselves up with so much versatility moving forward, so much flexibility moving forward. And yes, eventually the salary cap's going to catch up a little bit if these guys are as good as what we think they're going to be, but still it's always good to have flexibility, draft picks and otherwise. And the fact they have them, maybe they don't always get premium, value for them, but it's still better than not having them. And when's the last time we saw it? Most teams that end up with that much talent have traded away their first round picks to get that talent. And now they're just scraping to find second round picks to fill out their roster, i.e. the Denver Nuggets. Now it looks like the Denver Nuggets. We talked about Strawler the other night, Sam, and then I think he like cooked while we were talking about him as well. But the Thunder are going to have multiple first round picks to fill out their roster. So it'll be really impressive.
I mean, look, from Cuckoo DMV, like here's a very real question. If you're Oklahoma City, given what you're building, forget like he Cuckoo brings up Embiid to OKC for Chet filler and like 10 firsts. If you're Oklahoma City, would you move Chet for Joel Embiid? Straight up.
Why?
Given what your timeline is.
I was gonna say, why? Like, are they ready to win a title? Like, as much as we love, maybe they are. SGA's so stinking good, and J-Dub's so stinking good.
They might be.
I think they probably are. So it's probably stupid to say no. But why do it that and have just a few years whenever I can have 10 years of a chance to win? Now it's kind of more of a sure thing versus a not sure thing, because we don't know that Chet's going to be incredible like we think he is. I just want to, here's my answer. I want to rock with the guys I drafted. That's just where I'm at. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe I'm crazy. I drafted these guys. There's something I just really like about the idea of I drafted all these guys. I'm going to rock with them because I think I can win multiple championships with them because I believe in how we scouted, drafted, and developed them.
If you move Chet for Joel, if it was just Chet, then I think there's like a real argument one way or another.
Yeah.
He's locked into a contract. I would, that's one where I think I'd probably do it. But I think there is real value in them like waiting and just continuing to develop and continuing to, build this window out as long term as you can and being smart about it. Like I would definitely not move Chet and I would not move Chet in 4 firsts for Joel. If it was like Chet and salary filler, I guess I'd probably do it because Shea and Joel plus Jalen Williams plus all of these picks that you have, like you could probably swing it. But like
Sam
And look,
is
this isn't disrespect to Joel. It's more of a timeline question to me for Oklahoma City. Like Joel is drastically better than Chet Holmgren right now. Like I'm not
oh yeah.
denying that. It's truly just more of a timeline question in terms of if you're trying to fit certain things in certain windows as a winner.
Is that the best duo in the NBA though?
Yeah, I think it might be, which is why like you really strongly consider it. I think.
So that's
Um,
where the more I thought about it, I'm like, okay, can they win a championship with Joel and how young these guys are? And then the more I thought about it, we just said SGA's top 10. We know
yeah,
Joel's top 3. Who else can compete with that? J Dub is your number 3. You still have Giddy. Like that would be the thing for Oklahoma City is they don't have to trade a bunch of quality players to make this happen. It could be one young star with a bunch of draft picks, and you still have lots of other. You still have Lou Dort on the roster, plenty of other guys where it's like, okay, here's your
here's
5 year window right now.
here's the other thing too that's a little bit scary. If they wanted Joel Embiid, they would not have to move Chet. Like
Because of the draft picks.
because of the draft picks and because of everything else they have. Like I don't know that Philly will get a better offer than like Josh Giddey salary filler and 7 first round picks.
Done. Do it. Let's sign up.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like they wouldn't have to do that either is the big piece of it. Let's move off of Oklahoma City though.
I do like talking
From
about them.
Garrett Johnson, half awake takes. Which team's future is most closely tied to their play over the first 2 months of this season? In other words, who could we see quickly hitting the restart button if things don't go as planned?
Shout out Garrett. That's my guy. We work pretty closely together and some stuff. Chicago is my number one answer.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for Chicago. I'm not sure. Is Toronto is one that I am interested to see that I also
Yeah.
think could fall into that fairly quickly. Um, those are
I
my
think
2 right now off the top of my head.
I think Toronto is the big answer here. If they win and they're good under Darko and playing this style with Pascal and Scotty and OG and everybody there, like they'll I think try and just build around those guys, like and it'll be great. If they falter and like struggle early on, I think you basically have to move Scotty and Anunoby. You can't risk losing those guys for nothing. So to me, the answer is probably Toronto. Um, I will say this though, like Scotty Barnes has looked really, really good in the preseason, like really, really, really good. So I'm a little bit more confident in what I've seen from them this preseason than maybe what I anticipated coming in. Having said that, they're definitely the answer to this. Like if their first 2 months they are 4 games below 500 or something, they probably have to make a move.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out my guy Malachi Flynn. He's been playing well here. Let me ask you about Atlanta, which I watched Atlanta play the other day, and I actually thought they looked really good.
I do too. Yeah.
I was really impressed, to be honest. I thought the offense was really flowing. As a high school coach who always coaches guys to take charges, and I think everybody's gonna hate me when I say this, they tried to take a ton of charges in that game, which I just appreciated as a low-level high school basketball coach. I know nobody likes seeing that in the NBA. I get it. It's silly. What if they don't start off well? I don't know that there's a move to be made there. I think it's probably too quick. Is that even a potential that they do something that they're not ready to blow it up? Surely, are they?
I mm,
I don't think it's going to happen
probably
for what it's
no.
worth because,
Yeah.
I think Quinn's got that offense looking really, really. I'm trying to find a team in the West, and
Yeah.
I can't find one that makes like Minnesota's not going to go wholesale.
Yeah, like my opinion on this tends to be to look for potential like contractual spots, right? Because time is ultimately the thing that makes these moves happen, and running out of time to make moves happen. So Atlanta like has most of their guys under deals
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now, like other than Sadiq and Onyeka. Like I guess they could theoretically like not extend those guys and make moves on them, but like I think they probably wouldn't like totally shake it up. And I think they're going to look pretty solid throughout the
Yeah.
start of the season. Uh, I mean, like, very real question. Like, what do you think about Detroit for this question? Because if they start like really poorly, I wonder what happens there.
I'll tell you this, if it doesn't improve this year, it's scary what's gonna happen because especially if Cade doesn't look like the dude.
Yeah.
And it's it's scary because it's been for 3 years, this would be the 4th year of not good basketball, not winning basketball, restoration as they call it in Detroit. If Cade's not the guy and Jaden's just a sixth man and Jalen Duren doesn't take a jump defensively, are you really just going to blow it up again and start from scratch? You still owe a draft pick eventually, which I guess it's protected enough you want to end up conveying it, but they don't
Yeah.
have any extra assets. It is something I have thought about, Sam, and it's something that is scary for the organization if these guys aren't pretty darn good. And at least one of them has to be close to a number one option, or one of them a number two option. And then you can package the other ones to go get a number one option. But it's, it's a little scary. And so 20, 30 games in, if they're 7-23 and Cade isn't shooting well and Jaden's struggling and Jalen's not defending great, it's a little scary where they could be.
Yeah, they're a team that stood out to me a little bit in this question. Okay, next up, we'll shift to a draft question. What are your thoughts on Creighton in regard to how the supporting cast fits around Trey Alexander and sets him up to show what he needs to in order to make a significant leap leading into next year's draft? Ashworth, Alexander, Shireman around Kalkbrenner should be a blast. It's really interesting. Like, I think obviously Kalkbrenner is their dude there first and foremost. Like, Kalkbrenner is like, I think he's going to be an All-American this year. He's probably the best defensive big in the country, and on top of it, he is, other than like you could make a case for Klingon, I think maybe
Yep.
there. But their key thing that happens this season is Trey and how he adjusts to playing, on and off the ball, shifting roles and responsibilities a little bit more. And shout out Jacob Padilla for asking this question. We do have some experience of Trey like running on ball, like in a pretty real way. I think that some people do forget that happened. Like, the last like 14, 15, I think like maybe like 12, 14 games of 2021-22 when he was a freshman, Ryan Nembhard got hurt and he averaged 4 assists per game and like had to run the show a little bit more often and was pretty impactful. I think that he can run the show more often. I would expect to see him on the ball a lot more. And I think that Greg McDermott's going to be able to get super, super creative with the way that he uses Stephen Ashworth, like running off of crazy screens. And he's going to be able to be creative, doing the same with Shireman, like those two in like crazy off ball actions. Like, you can run like all sorts of like twists and things like that like can really make things hard for defenses. And then you have Kalkbrenner, who I think can space the floor. Like, it's just that Kalkbrenner doesn't shoot them. I think he can shoot. I just think he chooses not to. If he steps in and like is willing to space the floor and knock down shots, that's kind of a differentiator for them too.
Yeah, no, I like this roster around him. Obviously, Shireman and Ashworth can really space it. I like giving the big man in the middle, even if he is just playing around the rim, just as a play finisher. So I have this in my notes on my kind of scout where I have Trey right now is, you just have this roster where you have floor spacing and the big man play finisher. And, he was 30% pick and roll handler last year. And he was good, or excuse me, very good, according to Synergy in those play types. How much are you hopeful? What do you want to see more? Do you want to see him prove he can play on the ball like that? Or do you think he needs to prove more that he can play off the ball? Or does he need to prove that he can do both? Like, what do you think NBA teams are wanting to see and needing to see for him to get drafted? I mean, he's going to get
Yeah.
drafted, but like be a first round guy.
Yeah. I think it's more on ball than off ball for him. Like, I
Okay.
think to me, that's the showcase skill. He's not enormous. Like, if he was 6'6", 6'7", then it would be like off ball shooting and like shooting off movement and everything. But being like in the 6'4" zone, let's say, I think that It's more that he needs to show a little bit more dexterity, like on the ball, can be like a legitimate secondary creator who can sometimes be like a combo that runs the show a little bit. I think that's the skill set that would change things for him.
So that's where I'm at as well. That would have been my answers. I want to see him, I don't know if exclusively run the show, but I want to see him run the show as much as possible just to see how I think he's going to be really good at it. And again, he has the context around him to be successful. He shot the ball really well from 3 and showed great improvement last year from the year before. So I think he has, shown that already. I want to see what he can do. I think Trey's really good. I think one of the first times I recorded with you, maybe the very first one where I was just guesting, we talked about him a little bit as someone
Yep.
we're both very high on.
Okay, from Jack Lane, been curious about this. What makes a prospect a quote unquote 2025 draft guy and not a 2024 draft prospect? If the talent is there, why wait the year? Thinking about somebody like Tyrese Proctor, who wouldn't have been round 1 in 2024, but is already thought of as a lottery guy for 2024. Or wouldn't have been around 1, I guess, for
2023.
2023, Jack
Yeah.
is saying there. So first and foremost, I think Tyrese would have gone in the first round if he would have entered the 2023 draft. I'll just say that up front. By the end of the year, he was really quite good at Duke, and scouts had taken notice. Scouts were also really excited about him coming into the year. I bet he would have gone somewhere in the like 18 to 20 range, or 18 to 30 range. I'm sorry. In terms of what makes a guy a 2025 and not a 2024, to me, it really comes down to like polish and also, frankly, like some like off the court things, such as like maturity, emotional maturity, willingness to fight through adversity, willingness to like scratch and claw and like, you know, climb those walls that you're going to hit as a rookie when you're really young, especially when you're 19 versus 20 or 21. Being able to do that, and frankly, having the skill set to even have a chance to do it in such a skill based NBA league, that to me is like the differentiators between what makes somebody a 2025 guy, where I think it would be better for them to go back to school, versus a 2024. I will also just say, when I talk to teams, I think that there is a bit of a pushback once you get past a certain point of the draft right now, in terms of like, teams do prefer slightly older players right now if you're not like taking an enormous upside swing on somebody like, at number 10 or whatever.
That's what I was going to say is if we're talking about a guy who may not be staying in, we're probably talking about end of the first, start of the second. And it seems like older guys are starting to go in that range. So if it's a guy in that range and maybe they need to prove their jump shot or improve their defense or whatever aspect of their game, and NBA teams think, hey, one more year in this program is going to help them develop that, then they can come back into the draft the next year and they're ready to come in and maybe not contribute year 1, but they're a year closer to actually contributing. I also think of a guy like Donovan Clingan, where do you think Clingan would have went in 2023?
12, 13,
Okay.
14, somewhere 10 to 20, I think.
Okay. I thought about him where like he played 13 minutes a game or something like that. Like some of these guys, like for Klingon, I want to see him in that role where he's playing
Yeah.
25 to 30 minutes a night. And he still would have got drafted high, but now I think sometimes they make their decision to be a 2025 draft guy. Klingon
Yeah.
could have been a
No,
2023, but I'm coming back.
yeah.
My guy Dylan Jones, Sam, could have been a 2023 draft. He's going to go back and he's going to come back. He's improved the jumper. His body looks incredible. He's got his body fat down and he's going to kill this year and he's going to get himself in first round contention. And that was a him decision. Like he was betting on himself with that situation. And that's what some guys do as well.
Yeah, no, it's the Klingon one's interesting. The Klingon one was like 100%. Like he had all the information in front of him and he just decided, I want to go back to school. Like whole scale. That's what happened there. And yeah, look, some guys just like to bet on themselves and like try and, if you can be a first round pick, the organizational investment in you is just like much stronger.
Yes.
So there is real value in that still. Let's go to Yuri Gagarin. why isn't Beal getting more hype on the Suns? He averaged 30, was all NBA, is only 30 years old, and obviously didn't care much last few seasons in DC. Phoenix has the best trio in the league. I will say again, I think Bradley Beal has looked fantastic in the preseason in the game that like I watched. So I am really, really excited to see what that trio looks like. I love that they're leaning into like Beal and Booker on the ball as opposed to like a more traditional, Chris Paul like distributor at the lead guard. I think that it probably will work in a real way. I think that Beal's going to be fantastic this year for Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Phoenix is getting a lot of attention. I think, yeah, Bill will be awesome. They're just going to outscore everybody. They've leaned into it and like power to them. The games I've seen, one was against Detroit where they scored like 50 points in the first quarter, and then I watched them against Eric Gordon has looked pretty good in the preseason games I've watched as well. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how those other guys fill out the roster. Nurkic seems to be fitting in pretty decent with what they're trying to do. And again, they've just kind of gone all in on we're just going to score 130, 140 points. And I think it's going to work a lot in the preseason, or excuse me, in the regular season. And we'll see what happens whenever playoff comes. And we all know the game slows down a little bit. But at the end of the day, they have some of the best bucket getters in the league. And if they can all share the ball and chemistry can work, I think there was a quote, Austin Reeves was talking about the Nuggets and how in the biggest moments, Sam, he could feel that the Nuggets had better chemistry because they had played together than the Lakers. That will be what's interesting to me with like the Suns and some of these teams, even the Celtics, even the Bucks. The chemistry, now they're going to have all year to do it, right? These weren't deadline trades, but it'll be really interesting how the chemistry happens in the biggest moments is where Austin was talking about, not just random, the biggest moments. They knew who was going to do what. Those three are going to have to figure that out in those moments.
Last question here. Thoughts on Tyler Smith and his draft stock projection? I've really liked what I've seen so far for what it's worth. First rounder, in my opinion, from John's. Tyler's been a really interesting eval so far, and I'll be really interested to hear what you have to say, Bryce.
Tyler is the absolute love of archetypes for me because he is a lefty big shooter, and I just fall in love with lefties who have sweet looking jumpers, and Tyler has one of those jump shots that looks like it's going in every single time. So for those that know, he's 18 years old. He turns 19 next month. A couple years with the OTE program. He was a big time recruit, right? Before OTE,
he was like a top 10 guy in the class, like for sure. Like no questions asked.
Averaged a ton of offensive rebounds with OTE last year. He's kind of truly an off-ball player, but man, he really has a sweet looking shooting stroke. I'm really interested to see what he does with the rest of his game. That's where I'm evaluating Tyler Smith moving forward. I think he can really shoot it. I buy it. More so defensively even. Can he be a weak side rim protector? G League Ignite have played him a little bit at the 5 in some of their games up to this point. I don't know that I love it, but if he could offer some versatility that way. So that's where I'm evaluating him this year is defensively, versatility, weak side rim protection, defensive rebounding, those type of things. But I'm betting on him doing all of those, shooting the ball really well, stretching the floor, and definitely having his name in the first round conversation.
Yeah, I would project him as a first rounder right now. More so because I have talked at length about why I think this draft is not very good. And, that continues to be a reality. But I will say he just needs to get so much better on defense. Like it's a tough watch right now. Like he just doesn't have like the awareness yet on the weak side. And like he just does not look like he knows what he's doing out there at the moment. And that's a real worry.
Yeah, it's definitely something to watch throughout the season to see how much he can improve. What do you think about his athleticism? Because I've had this conversation like him between Bobby Clinton and some like I'm interested to see how much of a play finisher he can be on top of a pick and pop floor spacer. I believe in all of that. I think he starts to provide even more value if he can play in the dunker spot, catch lobs, maybe actually pick and roll every once in a while. Do you believe in that aspect of just his kind of vertical explosion in those type of play types?
I hate like doing this, but like TBD, I think
Sure.
is like the right answer,
Yeah,
right? Um, he shows flashes. He
exactly
also
what I'd say.
shows like some flashes of like being a little bit heavier footed than you want in those circumstances. So I think that I think the right answer is TBD. Like if he can like really finish above the rim, he does show some like interesting like body control as
Yeah.
well around the basket from time to time. Like I've seen him like go like up and under like around the basket. Like there he has real acumen. It's just to me like the dunker spot particularly is like a different deal where to play in the NBA like in that role consistently you need to be able to like really like
Yes.
jump and finish above the rim.
Yes.
And I want to see a little bit more of that, I think. I don't know that I have the answer on that yet from him.
No, and that's why I asked because that's kind of where I'm at in my notes with him is it was like, okay, a couple times I wasn't sure. And then a couple other times I was like, okay, like here he's showing the vertical pop, he's showing the play finishing in these play types. And again, I know the defense is, I think for both of us is a big focus, but offensively, if you can do more than just stretch the floor, if you can do those play types as well, now you become a little more versatile on the offensive end in ways that NBA teams can use you. You know, it's not just spacing the floor. So I was interested to see what you had seen. I think we're kind of on the same page with that right now.
Yep, I agree with you. Bryce, I think it's time for you to get out of here. You have to go do some things
I
today.
have to go parent my kids, is what I have to do, Sam.
That is true. You have to go parent your kids, which is great. I'm glad for
it's
you. Tell the
it's kind
people
of
where they can
important.
find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, so at Motor City Hoops on Twitter. Appreciate obviously this platform has kind of bumped the followers recently, so I appreciate that. I appreciate you, Sam, for that. If you're a Pistons fan, the Pistons Pulse, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, and then I do draft work over at Draft Digest, part of SI. I have stuff going, some NBL teams, the G League Ignite, and then I'm going to be coming out with an article on the Connecticut and Iowa State NBA draft prospects. So going to be writing about Klingon, Stephon Castle, those guys, but also Omaha Baloo and my guy Keyshawn Gilbert up at Iowa State as well. So if you're into that, check it out.
I love it. Go follow Bryce's work, please, by all means. He is the best. He's just absolutely tremendous. In a minute here, we will be right back. I'm going to be here by myself, and we're going to be talking through some of what I've seen from the Houston Rockets defensively with some tape, and particularly through what I've seen from Alperen Sengun defensively so far, and some of the conversation about him and like kind of where I'm at on it. Because I think that he is just such a fascinating player, and the Rockets are a fascinating team right now. So I want to talk about them. And we'll be back here momentarily. Okay, we're back. Let's talk a little bit about the Houston Rockets and how they are playing defensively right now. So we're going to dive into some tape here, which is going to be fun because Ime Udoka is a new coach with the Rockets, and with a new coach typically comes new schemes. And I think a lot of what we've seen from Houston so far in the preseason has involved a lot of experimentation as much as anything. Like we're going to run through the 3 games up until tonight. I know they're playing like as we're talking right now, but we're going to run through the 3 games that Houston has played up until tonight and just kind of explain some of the ways that they have kind of experimented and shown different looks to teams throughout the course of the preseason. They've done just about everything, particularly in ball screens with Sengun at this point. They've played drop, and frankly, as you'll see throughout these clips, I think they've played a lot more drop than any other coverage, particularly because they played uh, against Daniel Tyson, the Pacers, and then they played Jonas Valanciunas and the Pelicans. The way that they're guarding side ball screens is interesting in some respect. They're doing some interesting pre-switching things with Alperen Sengun as well that we'll talk about. And then additionally, we're also going to talk a little bit about some play they've done at the level and some ways that they've decided to keep him on the move and keep his momentum active. But we're also going to look into just what some of the inherent limitations are from Sengun defensively, just in terms of explosiveness and length and ability to protect the rim as we go through these clips. So let's talk through this. Let's go. Let's just kind of get through these clips here. Let's see if we still have this. Do we? No, we don't. Give me a second here. Don't know what happened. No. Still gone. Still gone. Give me 1 second. Okay, and we're about to be set. Okay, here we go. So this first clip here, let's rewind to the front. I just kind of want to showcase some of the different ways that they're using Sengun in screens, right? So this one, more of a side ball screen. Sengun is definitely playing drop here, right? They're playing him in drop, and they're having Jalen Green fight over the top to get to Bruce Brown here. So as we draw, as always, we're going to see here, Jalen Green's going to go that way, and Sengun is going to slide backward. And we're going to just generally see here that this is straight drop defense, but I want you guys to focus on Dylan Brooks as well here. So one thing that Houston is doing in these side ball screens pretty regularly so far is that they are a little bit more aggressively having their wing at the top here whenever somebody is at the wing, is over here, is up there, wherever, even if they're over here, they're having this man on this side of the court dig in and help to give Sengun a little bit more time to be able to recover, to play in drop, to give Amen Thompson a little bit more time to get over the top of the screen. And they trust guys like Dylan Brooks, guys like Fred VanVleet, guys like Amen Thompson to be able to use their speed to recover here. So I really, really like this strategy here, even though in general, what you're going to find is that I am not an enormous fan of playing Sengun in drop because I think that he's just not quite vertical enough as a rim protector to be able to do so. I like this general adjustment if they're going to play drop. So again, watch the full clip. They're going to take a little mini dribble handoff here. Brooks is going to help. It's going to lead to a shitty mid-range jumper, rebound, cleared play, right? Just going to move this. I think it might be a little bit easier to frame me in the shot now. Okay, there we go. Next play up, this is at the 9:30 mark of the first quarter here against the Pacers. And this is just going to be is this going to be a reject? No, it's just going to be an early go from TJ McConnell here, where he's not even going to wait for Tice to set this screen. He's just going to drive on Fred VanVleet. And look, on some level, like Fred probably just needs to do a slightly better job at the point of attack. But the reason I pulled this one is just generally to showcase that on its face, this does not look like a terrible shot to give up. It is a mid-range shot from a player like TJ McConnell, who is not, some incredible shooter, right? But this isn't that difficult of a shot in rhythm. Like, you see here just how little lift Sengun has whenever he's on his back foot here in this clip. I think it's a little bit difficult for him to really explode upward in those circumstances and be able to get like a really strong contest that actually disrupts what the offensive player is doing. TJ, I think, knows what he's going to get to basically, like right now. Like even at this point, before he even takes the screen, I think TJ McConnell knows that he's going to get to this little fall away mid-range shot unless Jalen Green like really helps in from the corner. Then he's going to be able to hit that kick out. There just isn't a whole lot of disruption in what Sengun does. I think he's gotten way better defensively based on what I've seen from the preseason, at least positionally and in terms of being active and mobile. But there are still some inherent limitations that we at least need to discuss and talk about. This one is going to be, if I remember correctly, no, this is not that one. This is just going to be a regular ball screen. Again, Sengun in drop here pretty clearly. And you're going to see that Jalen Green, he's going to fight over the top. Sengun's going to backpedal. And then Fred VanVleet helps into the wing here to try and stop. He's going to dig down and try and dissuade Bruce Brown, who we can use a different color for, from driving into Sengun. I love if you're going to play drop, I love this. I think this is smart. I think this is the way that they should be going about it. But again, this is a walk-in floater for Bruce Brown. There just isn't a whole lot of disruption to what Sengun is bringing in drop. Again, that's a mid-range shot. You're not going to be like, from a shot distribution perspective, wildly disappointed, but you would like to get a better contest on those shots if you're going to give them up. So this one here, Tice tells TJ McConnell to go through the play. As TJ go that way, he wants Ben Mathurin to come around the ball screen here. I like the way that Tari Eason, I believe that's Tari, fights through this action. Tari is just excellent, always defensively in terms of effort. I love the way he plays on defense. It's a little bit of a strange choice, in my opinion, for Tice to be asking for the guy that Tari Eason is guarding to come through for the screen, as opposed to the guy that Jalen Green is guarding to come through for the screen. It's preseason. They probably just wanted Ben Mathurin to get a shot here. 6 minutes, 25 seconds left in the first quarter. I love how Tari like kind of baits him into the shot a little bit there. But again, with Sengun, this is full scale drop. Like Sengun is backpedaling. They're playing a lot of drop here. And this is the game that as we go back and go through this game, you're going to see this is actually the one where they played, with Sengun at least, more at the level than in the other two games. So a lot of drop coverage so far, and this just needs to be a box out from Jabari Smith. I get that it's preseason, but like Obi Toppin's just going to come around here. This needs to be him coming in, getting a body on Obi Toppin. That just is kind of unforgivable a little bit. Again, it's preseason. I'm not going to complain that much here, but yeah, that's just, you can't stand around and not get a body on Obi Toppin, who is going to be crashing from the corner every time. This one here, again, ball screen, drop coverage. This one's Cam Whitmore. I would imagine here, this is kind of a complicated one just because, as you can see, that looks like Jayshawn Tate over there. Or is it a men? It's a men. So a men at the beginning of this action, Ben Mathurin's over here. He's going to come here. He's going to get this ball. You're going to see a men. He's going to point using his finger. Hey, switch, switch, switch. Or stay, stay, stay. He stays. Whitmore stays. Where's the point? Missed it again. There it is. You can see the point here. Amen's telling him, stay, switch, guard Bruce Brown here. It's very plausible knowing that Bruce Brown is mostly a good shooter off the catch at this point. He's not a great pull-up shooter right now from 3-point range. I would venture here that either this is Cam Whitmore just like kind of getting caught up in the screen, or they've told the Rockets on Bruce Brown screens, hey, go under these actions, we'll handle it that way. Again, though, under and drop. This is under and drop. This is it. They are continuing to play drop with Sengun, which I'm very interested to see what it looks like throughout the course of the season. If they continue to do this, again, it's preseason. I think they're doing some experimenting. Love the way he finishes possession, gets the rebound. This one here, again, drop. TJ McConnell gets all the way to the rim. This is kind of like a double drag in transition. 19 seconds left on the shot clock, 7:30 left in the third. You're going to get double drag here. Tice is going to kind of like ghost it on the second one, it looks like. And then you're going to get McConnell trying to get downhill. This is one where Jabari just kind of needs to stay in front, in my opinion. The screens aren't that strong. They switch this first one at the top. Fred is guarding TJ here. I love the way that they switch this one. They are doing a lot of switching 1 through 4, it seems like to me, throughout the preseason. Not universally, but they have done it a lot. They are going to call out this switch. Fred's going to go here. Jabari is going to guard TJ McConnell. And then again, this is just kind of a slip from Tice. So I like that they didn't necessarily try to switch this or anything. Again, Jabari, I think, kind of anticipates the screen. You can see, I think that he kind of tries to get skinny a little bit early here. And it stops his momentum. Like you can see that like he's getting his foot ready here, that left foot, to try and like get over the top of Tice if he stays there so that he can get skinny and get over the top of that. But Tice leaves early. Smart move from Daniel Tice, longtime pro, consummate vet. Sharp play, leaves early, ends up resulting in Jabari giving up another one of those floater TJ McConnell shots. This is one that I showed earlier, I think maybe last week, where this is where we start to get into them playing a little bit more show and recover, right? This is what I would like to see them do. I would like to see them play a little bit more aggressive at the level. It's kind of hard to draw on this one here because they are going to kind of do a few different things, and the camera angle wasn't great. I think that's Ben Shepherd who came up, got the ball, dribble handoff, then went that way. Isaiah Wong coming back across over here to take this play. And this is going to be a screen here with Jarris Walker stepping up. And it's going to almost be like a little mini weave action at the top, where I love what they do here. I love what the Rockets do, and I would love to see them do this more with Alperin, where they play him at the level. Look where his feet are. Look where his feet are compared to the three-point line. His feet right at the three-point line. This is great. Like, do this more. I think that if you get him on the move, he's really good at just being big and walling up and being strong. There's just a lot there that you can do with Sengun when he's already on the move, and his momentum is like in motion. Do this more. This is a nice little play, I think, from the Rockets here defensively. He recovers back. I love the way that Whitmore is engaged in help there. They rotate around, they rotate through it. I love the way that they played that defensive possession the whole way. This is great here. So what I want to showcase here is Whitmore is going to get down. Look at this on this dive man here. Look at Whitmore rotate in, and then he's going to have to shoot back out to close out. I love the way he closes out here. The whole thing just really works rotationally. I think they can do this. I know that it's a little bit hard with younger guys a lot of the time to be able to play in this kind of rotational style, but I think they have the personnel to do it. And I think it's the place where Sengun is best, being able to do it because of his ability to keep his momentum moving. Sengun, again, this one's going to be like a full scale, like hard hedge where he is coming way out above the level. You're going to see here, the screen's going to be like right around here. And then Sengun is just going to go way out here, try and wall up, stop him, disrupt his momentum. Let Sengun use his mobility. These are the places where I think he can really be effective. Like I love when he tries to be disruptive, aggressive, use the mobility, use the strength, use his chest, use his length. Like that's the way he can be successful, I think. I don't, as we're going to continue to see, I don't love him in drop because drop coverage generally, you either have to be absolutely enormous to be successful, where you can just wall up and body up and use your length to actually impact and contest shots, or you need to like just frankly be able to be an elite level vertical athlete who can jump and contest in these situations. Sengun is not really either of those things. He's a lot of great things. He's an awesome offensive player. I think he's smart. I think that he has been a lot more rotationally aware this preseason as well on weak side coverages and everything. But I just don't think that drop is really what works for him. So now we're going to get into the Rockets' second game here of the preseason against the Pelicans. And this one, again, you're going to see this is drop, but I think Sengun is starting too low on his drop. And what you're going to end up seeing is this is just like patented Spain action here, right? Where Jonas is coming up to set the screen. Brandon is trying to get downhill. And then you're going to see Herb Jones come up and set this back screen as Alperin is trying to get into the play and try to get back to Jonas. And the end result there is that typically most teams will switch this and have this back guy be the drop guy, and they'll switch at the top. That's basically what happens here. They switch it, but Ingram is too downhill already to really do anything. When you have guys that are just absolute freak shows athletically, like Brandon Ingram is, just being a 6'10" guy who can drive, 7'5" wingspan, finish at the rim, you let him get downhill, it's too late. I just think Sengun starts his drop here a little bit too deep. He's like almost back at the foul line already. And that just makes this a really, really tricky spot. That's just a small positioning thing though. That's fixable. I don't even think this play is really Sengun's fault in any way, shape, or form. It's just a tough action to guard, really. Maybe it's a little bit his fault by starting the drop a little bit too low on the court. This one here, this is going to be a side ball screen again. What I want you to notice here, maybe a side dribble handoff here. He's going to curl in. And again, defensively, what you're going to see, Fred VanVleet going to fight over the top of this. Sengun going to play in drop. But that's going to be where Jayshawn Tate helps over strong, tries to really, really disrupt the drive from CJ McCollum. It helps here as well that Dyson Daniels, this guy, non-shooter that you can absolutely recover back onto. This is just like this is if you're going to play drop on these side ball screens, which I think is like a reasonable thing for them to do. This is a different clip than what I thought. It's the principles are the same. You're still having Jay Sean crash here to try and cut off a little bit of momentum from Zion, and Fred is icing this screen here, forcing CJ baseline this way into Alperin's help here. This is the way a lot of teams guard ball screens. This is totally normal action here. Fred gets the strip there, which you're going to see right here, gets him, pokes it away. Sengun grabs the ball. Really good, really good from the Rockets there defensively. This one, again, side dribble handoff. This is more what I'm talking about defensively here. The one that I drew up last time. Side dribble handoff, screen. CJ is going to come around curl. Alperin is going to play more of a drop going backward. You're going to see Tari. He's going to come in. He's going to be almost like here at the opposite elbow. Again, guarding Herb Jones here, where Herb, not a great shooter, somebody that you can probably help off of. Although I will note, Herb Jones' shot looks, a little bit smoother this preseason at least. I think CJ anticipates this help really well from Tari and gets to this little floater a little bit quicker than what you would normally see. Really sharp. Fred gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Really good. Really good there. So this one, let it play through. This is a middle dribble handoff instead of a side dribble handoff. So this time, the difference here is that the Hornets have this man in the corner here, as opposed to on the wing, where one of the Rockets guys can help in here and try and cut off this shot, contest this shot in some way. I just really think I disagree with them playing any sort of drop coverage in the middle of the court. I just don't think that Alperin is really disruptive enough to be able to stop people from walking into shots like this. And this is Jordan Hawkins shooting this shot. The problem is Jordan Hawkins is a rookie and he's a great shooter. I don't really want that wide open of a mid-range jumper, even if that's like a semi-inefficient shot. NBA guys can knock down that shot at a really high level. That feels like a difficult spot to be in. This one, again, side dribble handoff. This one, Alperin plays a little bit more at the level again, although this time it's a little bit more due to circumstance. So what I want to show you here is that there is a bit of a miscommunication between Jayshawn Tate and Amin Thompson in terms of who is going to come up and guard and get over the top of this dribble handoff here. So watch these two try and talk through this here, right? So they both end up here guarding both guys, which means Alperin ends up having to play at the level, or else this is just a straight walk-in shot, right? There's no defense coming from the back. And because he ends up playing straight at the level, I think that's against Najee Marshall here. I think it kind of surprises the Pelicans a little bit. And it ends up resulting in Najee having to turn and try and spin, and Tari Eason is able, again, on these side dribble handoffs, side ball screens, the Rockets having that weak side man dig way into a handle. I love what they're setting up to do here. I love this kind of aggressive defensive coverage. I think that this is where they should live. I think they should live a lot more in these actions where they're not in drop. it just makes more sense to me. I think Sengun is much more effective and disruptive when he is not being asked to play drop coverage. So this one here, this one's just kind of a simple screen, and you can see like Shangun's just backpedaling at this point. And again, when he's backpedaling, I don't think he necessarily has the quickness to be able to recover and like get his momentum moving forward again. This one, he does an okay job of containing. I think Dylan Brooks, particularly here, does an absolutely fantastic job getting over the top of this screen. This is an awesome screen from Jonas Valanciunas. And look at the way Dylan fights to get back into this. Like absolutely scratches, claws, battles, ends up being a peel switch where he has to now battle Jonas on the paint. And Jonas is going to kind of end up being able to seal him off a bit as a help defender coming over. But this is just, to me, kind of predicated early on, even though Sengun did a good job, and this is just a reset, right? Like I think he does a good job here containing. And really, if anything, Reggie Bullock is just a little bit late reacting to this. And then Tari Eason as well needs to be a little bit more ready, especially when he's guarding Najee Marshall, who's like not the most impactful shooter. I would love to see Tari just be available for this weak side contest here. But again, like it kind of starts by getting downhill at first. Sengun does a good job and drop there. I think that's actually a good rep by Sengun, but I think it's harder for them defensively when they're in drop. Next, here, middle ball screen, drop again, pull up, miss shot. That's a shot that, look, I think Brandon Ingram can shoot. I don't really want him taking that shot that wide open if I am Houston necessarily, but you know, every team has different principles in terms of what they like to give up, what they don't like to give up. Generally, Boston was pretty comfortable giving up that shot under Ime. I would just like to see, I think, a little bit more of like a late contest, either coming from the backside there, which is where it's typically supposed to come from, or from the front. Tari gets there a little bit by the end, but because he stumbles getting around the screen there, this is just kind of a walk-in. I don't know if he actually ever bothers Brandon there. Brandon just kind of misses the shot. Next one, again, side. What teams I would guess will start doing with these. This frankly is more of like a middle ball screen than anything. And because of that, it's a drop. Sengun again does a pretty good job here positionally. This is what I mean when I say, like, I think his footwork and mobility has been better. He doesn't allow himself to get the corner turned. I think this is a really good rep from him. I think he had a few good reps in drop here. And they end up getting the steal on the backside. It's not that he's universally bad in drop. I just think that there are better ways for them to guard. There are decent reps for him in drop, which is why I think I would say generally the defensive tape is much more positive for Sengun than what I've seen previously in his first few years. So here, this is just kind of an early switch in transition where this is like kind of a slipped ball screen and they end up just having to switch it. And you get Zion on Sengun, you get Jonas completely sealing off this defender here. I mean, like a men probably needs to rotate over in this circumstance, but honestly, Zion covers this ground so fast that this is basically an impossible ask for anyone. I don't really blame Sengun. I don't blame anybody for this. This is just Zion being a freight train. That's just one that's really tough. I think Sengun does as well as he can, bodying up and defending here. It's not a terrible rep. Now, this is the most recent game, and what I want to call out is even more experimentation. So what did you notice there? This is a switch. This is the game where they just started switching screens. They're going to communicate through this switch here. Sengun's going to guard the guard. I think that's Jabari. Jabari's just going to take Zach Collins. And we're just going to work through it, right? We're going to switch and we're going to see if that works for us, right? A lot of experimentation this preseason for the Rockets. I think it works. And again, another switch there, right? Between Fred VanVleet and Sengun. He's now guarding Chetty Osman. What I want to call out here is eventually Dylan is going to come through. Alperin is trying to communicate to Dylan, hey, it probably makes more sense for me to be guarding Jeremy Sohan. Jeremy's more of a big. He's pointing. I think he's telling Dylan, go out here to Chetty. And then you're going to watch Dylan kind of point and tell Alperin, hey, there's 8 seconds left on the shot clock. There's a mismatch here with Keldon Johnson just being a lot stronger than Fred VanVleet. Go double. I don't know how much I love that decision necessarily from Dylan, but like you can see him point here. He's going to say, hey, go double. I can guard 1-on-2 here, which frankly, like that's not an unreasonable ask for him, depending on what the pass is. He can get to both of those closeouts, I think, in a reasonable way. I don't think it's a bad decision from Dylan necessarily to ask Alperin to go help. It's the kick out. You get the X out here, which is beautiful. You're going to get Reggie Bullock coming up from the corner. Because I guess this isn't really an X out. I thought that I missed Jabari right there. But you're going to get the closeout here. You're going to get the closeout here. It's just that it's kind of a hard rotation at the end of the day. So here, as we're going to see, Zach Collins is just going to drill that 3. I'll show it again because my screen kind of screwed up there. We'll watch nearly the full thing again here and help. It's an interesting possession where it's clear there's a bit of a miscommunication there in terms of what exactly they want to do. Dylan Brooks in general does have a tendency to be more of like a scrambly kind of defender, not in a bad way. He's definitely like an action and aggression defender. I think that I'm generally okay with that. They got a good closeout on Zach Collins. It's just that Zach Collins is a good shooter at this point. And they rotate across and it's just a good shot. But in general, this is an interesting possession because I really, this is the first time I'd seen them switching in preseason, and I'm very interested to see them try and, just, I don't think Sengun can guard guards, but I think against teams like the Spurs that don't have great guards necessarily, there might be some efficacy to switching a little bit more often and allowing him, if it's not a guard that is a great pull-up shooter or is some crazy athlete, I don't mind the idea of letting Sengun be out there on an island with a guard necessarily. So here again, you're going to get a switch. You're going to get another switch. He does a good job here walling up and contesting and making it so that this is going to be a contested shot from Malachi Branham. So again, here you're going to see this is the first switch. He's going to go here. Jabari's going to go with Zach, and then they're going to come across here. You're going to see a communication here between Sengun and is that Jayshawn Tate in the corner? It might be. I see something that resembles number 8, maybe. No, it's Reggie Bullock in the corner. And again, switch, does a good job, contests. They get an offensive rebound. That's going to happen, but that's not Alperin's fault. This one's interesting because what you'll notice there is Alperin is guarding Zach Collins coming down the court, right? That's the anticipation here. And then Collins is going to go up. And you're going to see Dylan's waving Alperin back. He's telling him, stay back, stay back, stay back. They're going to pre-switch this one. This is another thing that I think they should do way more of. Pre-switch it. This is great. Pre-switch the action. Keep Sengun out of it. Fantastic. At some point, someone has to get a body on Zach Collins, but that's a great play, I think. That's a great, smart move from the Rockets. Pre-switch these actions. Make it so Sengun isn't involved. If you think he is your worst defender, and right now, he probably is the worst defender on the court at least. Get him out of those actions, right? That works. Unfortunately, Collins gets the rebound. It's just the way the ball falls sometimes, but I love it. So here again, they play at the level this time. I love the way they switched up coverages in this game. This one's different. Like they're doing some different things here as they sort through these actions. So get an initial screen there where Brooks and that's Jabari have to sort through it. Now you're going to get this action here where Sengun, he's going to, instead of dropping back, he's going to kind of play at the level here. And then he's going to have to get back and recover. I love it. This is what works. They end up forcing a turnover here before they even has to get back. Look at him. Great hand-eye coordination. Hands are always high in these situations where he's playing at the level. Look at this. I mean, this is what you want. This is exactly what you want. You want hands high. You want to try and cut down angles. I love it. It's really, really good defense, I think, when they play at the level. And they have the vets out there, guys like Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet, Reggie Bullock, to be able to rotate around and like have that wherewithal on the court. So here, this one's like kind of end of the third quarter in the San Antonio game. This one, again, they play at the level. He gets split. It's kind of a bad possession again. But notice again, they called out the pre-switch, right? That's even Fred VanVleet pre-switching here, right? So let's get the point here, right? Like you can see the communication. Fred's saying, stay back, stay back. Switch on to my guy, who is Chetty Osman. I love this. This is great. Keep him out of the action. Now, the adjustment for other teams is they have somebody else go set the screen, right? Zach stays back, and now they have Chetty Osman go and set the screen. Chetty, really smart player, understands what's going on. Alperin tries to play at the level here. I have no idea where Jabari Smith is. He just like completely gets caught hand in the cookie jar, I think. No, he just gets kind of shoved off here. He's just like not attached at all to Keldon Johnson, I think that is. He is just way out of this play after this closeout, and that's going to create all the space in the world. I don't really think if you're going to play at the level, Alperin is in a bad spot here. Like maybe he's a little too far on his front left foot, but I mean, this one's Jabari is just like out of this play, basically. So if Jabari isn't out of that play, I love what they're doing. I love the pre-switch. I love trying to keep Sengun out of the action. Pre-switching is good. Pre-switching is smart for the Rockets because you want to have Sengun out there. His offense is that good. Here we go again. This one, a little bit more at the level here, in my opinion. Look where the screen is being set. The screen is being set below the 3-point line here by Collins. Sengun is here. He's sliding. He's moving his feet. He's trying to stay in front, and he ends up getting the corner turned on him by Keldon. But he's able to recover and get the block. I just think that when his momentum is moving and he's active and doesn't have to stop and restart that momentum like you often do have to and drop when you're going backward, your momentum is moving backward and then you have to stop and you have to go forward and contest. I think it just works way, way better for Sengun because it allows him to get the most out of his athleticism. He's not a great athlete, but he's very coordinated. He's very smart. He's not an explosive athlete is a better way to put it. He is a good athlete. He's just not that kind of athlete. So this one here, off ball, more at the level again. Active hands, or maybe, somebody dribbles off of their foot, right? Malachi might have just dribbled off of his foot here, but active hands wide, right? This is what we're looking for. This is at the level. Look at how long he is. Look at everything here. This is great. This is what you want. This is what you want from your big playing at the level coverage in any sort of action, right? He ends up throwing it backward. They don't get the ball, but that's okay. It's a deflection. It throws things off for the Spurs momentarily. It's good. here. He gets kind of shoved backward. We're going to see a little dribble handoff here. They drop, back cut, score for Sohan, because as you can see, I just think that like he drops way too far back. He's recovered into this play after the shove, and he's just dropping back. It's like they were confused, I think, in terms of what they were doing. Maybe I don't know if they thought maybe there was like a switch here. Like, look, it looks like they're kind of Jabari and Sengun here, kind of trying to figure out and navigate. Young players, obviously, this is going to happen, right? But it just looks again like they're a little confused. But it looks like Alperin ends up like it's supposed to be in. My guess is that it's supposed to be in drop because he ends up kind of backpedaling a little bit here. Like he's backpedaling at first. I can't tell if he's backpedaling because he thinks Jabari should be fighting over the top, which is kind of my guess. Like I think he's backpedaling here thinking Jabari is going to fight over the top, and instead he goes way under it. There's just a miscommunication there in some way, shape, or form. It results in Dylan having to lift off of Sohan to help from the corner here. And Sohan is just going to cut to the basket. This is the last clip, by the way. Easy bucket there. Tough layup. They get back into the play. They make it a little bit difficult, but reasonable contest there. But yeah, I mean, look, the takeaways from all of these clips as we go through them, and I think it's worth finishing there and calling this show there. The takeaway from all of these clips, in my opinion, is that A, the Rockets are experimenting. They're trying different things. B, I think the Rockets are a little bit more effective when they play at the level of Sengun as opposed to playing in drop. I don't think that he is a great drop defender. I hope that some of these clips showcase that. It just results in a lot of open shots. Or even when he is there, he just doesn't really have the upward explosiveness to like really contest at NBA center quality level, even if he is good positionally. Third, and most importantly, frankly, here, he has gotten way better defensively. Like I do think he has gotten drastically better. I wouldn't call him an above average defender at this point, just because I think that there is not a whole lot of disruption unless he's playing at the level and he's able to like use his hands, use his chest to like wall up and, be able to disrupt things that way. But I think he's been a way better defender in the preseason this year than what I've seen him defend at previously. So if he can be that, the Rockets have a shot to be pretty good. I think their preseason play showcases that they have been a much better team than what we've seen in recent years. So I'll pull this out. I'll make this its own clip. You guys will get to watch it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think of all of these breakdown videos that I'm trying to do a little bit more of. This has been the Game Theory Podcast. Please remember, rate, review, subscribe, do everything you can to support the show. We will be back maybe this weekend, maybe more next weekend. We'll see. Until next time, we'll talk soon.